if I'm able to make their jobs easier, they're going to use me every single time. 99% of people aren't willing to do that work. The 1% of people that are willing to do that are going to build a long roadway of a business, and all you need is one company to build with you. You don't need 20, you don't need 30, you just need one to send you consistent clients on a regular basis. But again, 99% of people are going to choose the easy way, and that 1% will take the time, effort, and energy to build an actual business.
What's up, guys? Real quick, if you haven't joined my free Facebook group, Residential Real Estate with Jaron Sustar, yet, you need to scroll down to the show notes of this episode, click the link to the Facebook group. It's completely free, fantastic place to network and collaborate with other residential real estate investors all across the country so that you can continue to grow your real estate portfolio. Jesse, what's up, bro? Glad to have you on the show today.
What's going on, man? You know what? I need to have a spit cup with you right now, man. I don't have one. I should probably get one going.
We were just strategizing before I hit record. I was picking Jesse's brain on YouTube because he is a fantastic YouTube. You guys should go check it out. And I'm like, all right, I'm just starting this YouTube journey. What do I do? And he was giving me all these ideas like practical. And then he gave me a great idea for my intros, just like have a big chaw in, spit in the cup, and then let the spit would be my logo, right? That was that was the whole preface.
Dude, that would be the best intro ever. I don't know. It doesn't matter what the subject would be. I'd watch it. I'm not kidding.
All right. Hey, media team, you guys are hearing this. Let's get on it. You come over here tomorrow. We're going to get this thing rocking and rolling. But no, man, Jesse, I am stoked to have you. You've been in real estate since 2015. It's 2023, so I guess that's 8 years now. Previously, you were in healthcare for a ton of years, and I'm excited to hear your story about how you combine healthcare with real estate to absolutely excel in the midterm rental space, which is a fantastic space to be in. So, before we dive all into the real estate stuff, give everybody just a little backstory. Who you are before you bought your first property.
Got you. Okay, cool. Yeah, well, my name is Jesse Vasquez. I'm a YouTuber, just like Jaron's saying right here, which is weird for me to say out loud, but I guess I am that. And I'm a real estate investor, specifically in the medium-term rental space or mid-term rental space and the short-term rental space. And you're right, man. I've been in this industry now for about 8 years before it was cool. And I've watched it change over the last, 8 years significantly. Before, Jaron used to be able to have 4 rooms, a wall, and a TV on Airbnb and crush, and it's not the same anymore. You can't do that anymore.
Yeah. It's like the whole landscape of that world is not, I bought my first short-term rental in 2018, I think it was, or 2019, one of the two.
Yeah.
And even then compared to today now you got to have, the ping pong table, the foosball table, the fire pit, the swimming pool. Back then it was like, hey, put a house up, make it look pretty. You got a pretty good chance of it getting rented out at a decent nightly rate.
Yeah. Not anymore. I look at, Airbnb. Look, we're going to go talk about baseball. I'm a real big baseball fan. It's like Airbnb, the industry is in the 7th inning. It's been around for a while. It's been around since 2007. Started off by people on a couch, right, in San Francisco, renting couches out. They went to Airbnb Plus. They started adding all these additional, the new thing is experiential stays, and now Airbnb just rolled out this new renting by the room now. So it's almost like going back to the concept, how much further can Airbnb go if you look at the longevity of what they have going on? What's the next step? And I think this is where the medium term or the midterm rental space has such opportunity. We're going to go back to baseball terms. We're just chalking the field when it comes to the midterm space. There's umpires are barely getting out there, grounds crews out, chalking the field. That's how early it is. And imagine, you being able to get into Airbnb in 2007. I still think that the medium-term space, there's such a longevity that's coming that right now is really the best time to get in so that you do have your foothold as the market changes and progresses. So there's just a lot of opportunities right now for a lot of people, especially with the interest rates being higher and, more municipalities, Jaron, that are starting to shut down short-term rentals. That's happening all over the place.
Everywhere.
Dallas just completely closed off. You can't short-term rent in residential areas anymore. So now what? What's everybody going to do? They're going to either sell, which I think there's going to be a bunch of houses for sale in Dallas. So if you guys are in Dallas, you're going to have some opportunities to buy some property here pretty soon. But then also, Jaron, people are going to flip in the midterm or medium-term space. And because, again, you get higher income higher rewards. It's not like the long-term stuff, right? You're usually 2xing long-term rental rates if you do it the right way, or even more.
Yeah.
So there's opportunity coming for sure.
Man, I love that. I love the analogies, and I think you're spot on. I think you are spot on, which all the people, and I have short term rentals, in the short term rental space are yelling at us like, no, that's not true. And I don't think Jesse's saying, and I'm not saying that short term rental world is going to end. It's just getting more regulated and more competitive.
Right.
And
Right.
so you have to play by more rules, and then you have to stand out. And so it's going to be there. But you're still in the wild, wild west when it comes to these midterm rentals. You don't have all these rules. You don't have all the competitiveness yet. And so why not get in and capitalize? I love it. So explain
Yeah.
to the listeners, what is midterm rentals, and then why did you get into that space?
Yeah, so midterm rentals are 30 days or more stays, and are typically between 30 days and 6 months. We've had guests stay longer than that, but that's typically what you'd consider um, a midterm rental. So it's between, short term is obviously 1 or 2 days or 5 days, 7 days, whatever it is. Long term is a year lease, right? So the medium term or the midterm space is like right in between, which is why it's called midterm. So for me, man, I stumbled on to this when I worked in healthcare for 17 years on the business development side, which is a fancy way of saying sales rep. I worked for hospitals, and my job was to go into these hospitals and get patients that were going to go home that needed, like, so Jaron, if you fell and broke your hip, which I don't ever think that'll happen to you,
Hope not.
based on your stature, that'll never happen to you, because it looks like you're in the weight room all the time. If you fell
Hey,
and
I'm in the kitchen too, so let's not.
hey, hey, you and I both, man. Don't make me stand up right now. We'll have a dad bod contest. But so I seen the opportunity. I was going to these hospitals on a regular basis, Jaron, and this is something I want everybody to think about right now. As I went into these hospitals, I would run into these clinicians that were working from out of state, from the Midwest. And let me give you an example. There's a lady named Barbara. And I remember specifically, she had this awesome accent, man. I'm in California, and everybody says "dude" and "bro" and "man," just like I do, even the women, by the way. And there was this one little small petite woman, and she was saying things like, "Don't you know?" and "Isn't he a doll?" And I'm like, I was drawn to her because we don't hear that here in California. And I was like, "What are you doing here?" And we were at a nursing station. It was like this dimly lit nursing station that has those fluorescent yellow bulbs. I don't know if you guys ever been in any of those kind of hospitals before. And she's like, "I'm a travel nurse." And I was like, "Oh, that's cool. Like, where are you coming from?" She came from Fargo, North Dakota. So that's why she had that accent, right? And I was like, "Well, where are you staying? Like, do you stay here? Like, are you staying local? Like, where'd you stay?" And Jared, you're not gonna believe what she said to me, man. She was like, "I'm staying at Motel 6." And just so you guys get context, the Motel 6 where she was staying is on 9th Street in Modesto, California. It's like the most prostitute-ridden, addictive. Like, you go there and like you're gonna catch like an STD or something just by sleeping on it,
Just from being there.
just from being there, literally. So I was like, "Man, are you really staying there?" She's like, "Yeah, we're staying. I can't find anywhere to stay." And I was like, "Well, what are you paying there a month?" And she said $3,000. And that's where my light bulb went off in my head. And this was in 2015, everybody. So like, I want you to get context to that. So in my market in 2015, you could buy a property for 200,000. You'd have a mortgage payment of say like $1,200, and then you can, like, I would literally be able to buy a property and have Barbara stay in it for 3 grand when she's staying in the Motel 6 for 3 grand. Like, so that's where my brain was going. So I asked her, like, "How did you get this contract? Like, how does this work?" So I went down to the HR department of the hospital, and this is where like my persistence took place. A nurse went into the HR department. You know, when a door shuts, like, I want everybody to picture a movie scene right now. You know how a door is shutting, Jaron, like in a movie scene, is like slowly
Mhm.
shutting, and all of a sudden you see a foot that comes in right there, and it stops the door like the last
Yep.
like 3 inches before it closes. That's exactly what I did. And I went in the HR department, and I was just like, "Hey, I'm actually looking at purchasing a property here in the market. I've talked to several people, Barbara being one of them, on Telly floor 3. Do you guys do contracts so that I can have like other people like Barbara stay in my properties?" And the girl, her name was Mindy. I never forget because she had a big giant name tag. And I was like, Mindy was like, "Yeah, we're having such an issue with clinicians finding property right now. Like, if you are able to do this, we will actually put together a contract." And I was like, "Awesome. What do I need to do?" And she just said, "Bring me terms. Come to me with where the properties are at, how much they're going to cost, and then we'll bring that to our higher ups." So I literally that day went and tried to look for a property. I've never invested. I didn't even have my own property yet, Jaron. Uh, and I went and bought a property within those first 30 days, closed on the deal. I picked up a place for 280. It was really, really nice and in one of the nicest neighborhoods in Modesto at the time. My mortgage payment was $1,600. And I got a contract for $3,900 to have clinicians stay at my property through the hospital. So that was my first introduction, was thinking outside the box, getting a contract so that anytime any clinicians were staying, they were going to pay me $3,900 a month. And I got that contract for 1 year. So whether there was clinicians there or not, they were paying me $3,900 a month, no matter what. And that's how I built this, this empire now that I have of over 22 homes. And we're doing over $1 million a month, a year, through all those properties, just through contracts. And that's, again, I think that's the way to go going forward in this space, is really connecting with companies and solving problems. Because at the end of the day, that's exactly what I did. And the most successful people in the world, like look at Elon Musk, love him or hate him, Jeff Bezos, like all those guys, what do? They solve a million problems, which is why they make so much money, right? And if you just niche things down and you solve one problem for one person, for one company, for one agency, that's how you build a long roadway to have a successful business.
Wow. So you weren't even listing these on whatever, what's the midterm?
Like Furnish Finder or
Yeah,
Airbnb.
Furnish Finder and Airbnb and Verbo. You literally have gone straight to putting in contracts with hospitals.
Yeah, and the agencies. And this is where, like, we'll talk about how people could do this themselves. But yeah, so just so everybody gets context, my job before getting into real estate was literally going and finding, like, say Jaron, you worked in a hospital, you were a case manager. My job was for you to like, know, and trust me, and send me referrals for patients that were getting home, like going home. That's how I like built my business, right? For the agency that I worked for. So essentially, I was taking what I learned for 17 years, which is sales. Everybody, if you learn how to sell something, it doesn't matter what it is. Those skills are transferable. And if you're able to have somebody know, like, and trust you within a short amount of time, you will literally be able to build any business you want. And I tell my kids that all the time. It's like, be really good at having people like you. I know that sounds weird, because some people are just like, I don't care who likes me. I mean, I agree to that too. But also, there's certain people that you want to like you, especially when we're talking about building something. And I think that is where somebody can build a substantial business just by having that one trait, sales skills, having that know, like, and trust.
I couldn't agree more. I've been in sales since I started working. And
Yeah.
if you can build trust with people quickly and then carry that on, don't just build trust and then screw them over, but like build trust and then do people right forever.
Right.
You will always prosper. What's the old saying Zig Ziglar said? It's like, if you can help enough people get what they want, you can have anything you want in life.
So
And
true.
yeah, it's so true in anything. So all right, that's crazy to me though, jumping back to real estate, that
Yeah.
you don't even go through the platforms, which just from a monetary standpoint, I would imagine has to save you a decent chunk of change. And then also, in the way I do my short-term rental, it's ran through Airbnb. And so
Yeah.
my next stays are based on previous reviews. And so, and I want to talk about, kind of more of it being the hospitality mixed with, passiveness, because we were talking about that earlier. It's not the most passive thing in the world,
It's
but I would
not.
imagine that's taken that factor out of it to an extent. Like, you obviously don't want people to have bad stays, but you're
Right.
not banking on some emotional guest that's going to dictate how the future of your property works out, right?
No, dude, not at all. And that's where, like, the magic of midterm is completely different. So most folks that stay in properties that for longer durations of time, they're the opposite of what you're short. So I have short-term rentals too. And I'll give you an example. We had somebody that came over that said the fan didn't go fast enough, and we literally had sent out a handyman, the fan, to like fix the fan. He like sprayed some WD-40 in there. Just simple, small stuff you'll get complaints about. With the medium-term guests, they're usually professional. Their mentality is like, I'm going to be living here for the next 60, 90, 120 days. They'll go out and buy their own stuff, like a light bulb that goes out. I'm sure you've had this before, Jaron. Hey, your lights out in the bathroom. Like, these guys these gals will go buy those things and put them in there. Obviously, we'll have them there, but they'll go buy things. Or if the plug is too far, I had a guest that did this. She went and got an extension cord that was like a 4 foot, so she could plug her phone in, which I should have obviously thought about that. But they don't call to tell you those things. They'll just do it because
Mm,
they're living there. So the idea of guests complaining are not the same. It's a completely different demographic of type of clients that you have. And for me, they're a lot easier than your short-term rental guests, especially now with the way things are. People know, and Jaron, you probably know this, that they know that they can get discounts if they complain about stuff, because at the end of the day,
mhm.
we're so reliant on reviews. And I'm a big person, like, don't build your house on somebody else's land. Like, that's essentially what happens when everybody's putting together their Airbnbs and their short-term rentals. Like, we're all just employees of Brian Chesky, or
Yeah.
whoever owns VRBO, so they can decide in a moment, like, sorry, your listing's not good enough, or we're going to turn you off, or whatever. So you're not actually truly building a business. And what other business platform, Jaron, do we have the opportunity to put something on with pictures that looks good and make money from it? Like, there's no other business that's like that. So, you're not really building your own business when you're doing that. You're building for Airbnb. You're building for other people. You just happen to be the middle person where your property is listed,
Yeah.
and that's
And you're at the
great.
mercy of them.
100%. And there's no longevity. There's no. I mean, there is for some people, but again, it can change overnight. And we've seen people, where that's happened, where Airbnb closes down, municipalities close things down, then you're shit out of luck trying to figure stuff out. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. With content, like as my brand, I am at the mercy. You're at the mercy of YouTube. I'm at the mercy, and you're at the mercy of Instagram, TikTok. And so in my business, and you probably try to do the same thing, as the CEO of this brand, I try to drive as many people as possible to emails,
Yeah.
because I know I own that email list. If I can build an email list, if Facebook wipes off the map, Instagram, YouTube, I still can get in touch with these people.
Right.
And it seems that you've been able to do this to an extent in the real estate world. And I think anytime you can mitigate risk when you're doing a business venture, it's only going to keep you around longer. I mean,
Oh yeah.
that's pretty much the short of it. You're going to have good success, and it's going to keep you around longer. So you started with the hospital that you worked at,
Yeah.
and then you mentioned, you started getting contracts with agencies. So how did it develop over time?
Yeah, so all these clinicians that were staying at these properties, they're all connected to recruiters. And this is I'll give everybody a very simple tip right now. And Jaron, you could probably even do this as you're listening to this. You guys just all head over to Indeed.com. And I'll do this as we're talking right now. You're in North Carolina, right, Jaron?
South Carolina.
South Carolina. Okay, cool. So when you go to Indeed.com, there's going to be two questions. It's going to be say what and where. So we're going to look for what is a registered travel nurse. So I'm going to type that in right now, registered travel nurse, in the platform. Then I'm going to type in South Carolina. Um, and when you do that, you're going to see all these companies that pop up. So right now it's showing Southern Senior Living, it's showing Passport Health, it's showing let's see, Connection RN. These are all companies. So my job is to call these companies and say, hey, my name is Jesse. I own a company called AirVenture Hosting. We house travel clinicians. Do you guys pay for stipend? Do you handle the housing for these clinicians or doctors? And that's where you start building a relationship with that person on the phone. And that's how I can essentially build the business. That's what happened with the hospital, right? So
Yep.
we have literally hundreds of free leads. And I'm looking at right now, there's probably 17 pages of agencies that are hiring travel nurses. And this is just the travel nurse industry. So if I pick up the phone, I dial these people. We talked about sales. It's all about connecting, right? Your network is your net worth. We've heard that all a billion times. That's just essentially the most important part of building a business. So my job is to connect with these other businesses on a business to business level and get them to know, like, and trust me. But then also, here's another thing that I do. I'll get on a call with, say, acute inpatient healthcare. I'm looking at it right now. I'll say, do you have 5 minutes that I can chat with you, maybe over a Zoom call? And if you don't mind sharing who you're sitting next to and their name, I actually will order you guys Panera. We have this beautiful thing called Instacart, right? We can order food, we can DoorDash. So I'll essentially jump on a quick 5 minute Zoom call with them, order Panera for them. And nobody's ever done anything like this before. So they're like, holy crap, Jesse's ordering his Panera. Like, you guys, this is being sent to the office. And now I get 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes of their time to talk about what I do, how I operate, how I can help them. And again, at the end of the day, it's solving problems. If I'm able to make their jobs easier, they're going to use me every single time. And
Yep.
that's the entire goal. Is I just want to build a relationship with them. And if it costs me $40 to send Panera to everybody, I now have their name, their phone number, their email address, everybody in that office. Guess what I can do afterwards? I can go on LinkedIn, connect with them on LinkedIn. I can now create a business relationship with them. And again, that's the entire goal, is to build an actual relationship. So when you mentioned passive, 99% of people aren't willing to do that work. The 1% of people that are willing to do that are going to build a long roadway of a business. And all you need is one company to build with you. You don't need 20, you don't need 30, you just need one to send you consistent clients on a regular basis. But again, 99% of people are going to choose the easy way, and that 1% will take the time, effort, and energy to build an actual business.
It's no secret that if you're going to be successful in real estate investing, you have to be able to fund your deals. Whether you're doing the Burr method or whether you're fixing and flipping properties for a profit, you got to be able to get to the closing table with money, and you got to have money to rehab the property. And so I personally use Backflip Capital when I need money to get to the closing table and to rehab my properties. I'm in the middle of a flip right now, and I partner with Backflip. It has been the smoothest process of all time. I literally went on their app, applied for the loan. You get pre-approved in less than 48 hours. You can lock in funding in just a few seconds with the touch of a button. Funding takes less than 2 weeks. Hello, that gives you an advantage when you're making offers on properties. And I can't say enough about partnering with Backflip Capital. They're great folks with a fantastic product that everybody listening to this should check out for the next time you go to do a Burr deal or fix and flip property. So here's what I want you to do. Go down to the show notes of this show. I've put a link for Backflip Capital in those notes. All you have to do is click the link so that you can download their app and get your next deal funded with Backflip. If you've been struggling finding good real estate deals, I've got a solution for you. It's REI Call Center. REI Call Center has professionally trained and managed cold callers to help you scale your real estate business. I think they give you somewhere around like 1,500 cold calls per day. Their clients have closed around $10 million from the leads they brought in. They got close to 200 clients going right now, and they're really more than just cold callers. Yes, they have their team of professionals who are making their calls, but they have weekly trainings and Q&A calls for yourself. They have training videos. They've got Slack channels with dedicated people to make sure you're successful. They've got checklists, cheat sheets, you name it. They've got you covered to make sure you are successful in your real estate journey. Well, how does it all work? Well, step one, you're going to pull a targeted list working with them from prop streams so that you can target the certain locations that you want to start buying properties in. Second, they're going to use their Zen call platform to start calling 1,500 calls a day per cold caller. They're going to then upload all the leads into Asana. You have a view of them, and you can go attack and start buying the properties that you see that pique your interest without having to do any other work. Look, I have worked a W-2 job while building my real estate portfolio. I've been raising a family the entire time, so I haven't had time to go and cold call myself. And that's where a company like REI Call Center comes into effect to be able to take that load off your plate so that you can generate leads, close more deals, and build that portfolio. We can reach out to them at reicallcenter.com, or if you go to the show notes of this episode, you will see a link that will take you directly to it. Buy your first or next real estate deal in the next 90 days guaranteed, or we'll continue coaching you until you do. That's my guarantee if you join my rental academy. I've stumbled upon a process that is so powerful that I can sit here today and say, you can come into my world and buy your first deal in the first 90 days. And if you don't, I'm going to keep coaching you until you do. What we've done in the Rental Academy is we've removed all the roadblocks for you. I've already chosen the market for you. You're going to have leads generated automatically. Myself and my team's going to work with you to analyze those leads. When you pull the trigger on a property that you want to buy and you need to fund it, we've got lenders in place. And after you've closed on it, if you need to rehab it, great. We've got contractors in place. And if you want to keep it as a rental, we've got property managers in place. So you come into our world, we plug you into a proven system, make it easy for you so you can have success in your real estate investing journey. If you're interested, you can go to cowboysacademy.com, or if you go down to the show notes of this episode, click the link that says Cowboys Rental Academy, and it will take you to your next steps there. Yeah, I feel like if you put that work in on the front end, then the back end gets a lot easier. You know, it's you got to spend some time calling, got to build those relationships, got to nurture them. But then, man, it becomes, you get systems in place, and it's like clockwork at that point. And you know, you start reaping the benefits of all the seeds you've sown earlier.
Yeah. And just like, so just give an example, like for a lot of my properties, say I make $5,000 a month as a short-term rental. I can make 47, 46 on the midterm space and not have to deal with the headaches that come along because these guests are staying for so long. So for me, it's like, I'm still 2xing long-term rental rates. I'm still bringing in good cash flow. I'm not having to deal with the headaches that come along with short-term rentals. I'm able to build an actual business. And here's the cool part, Jaron. is that I can sell my property at one time, and I can also sell this business with all those clients and contacts. And that sometimes may be worth more than the actual real estate that I have. So there's two separate businesses that are being built. And that's what I want everybody to think about is like, real estate's been way too easy for a long time, Jaron. Like it really has. And now with the economy being the way it is, the interest rates, that are higher than we've seen in a long time, which I think we're still spoiled if you go back and look at the 80s, right? It was
I
way
know.
higher. But it's hard to find a property that falls in the 1% rule. Like it's really hard to find that now. And it is for me, especially being here in California. So we have to think of creative ways. So I think this is kind of the next phase in real estate, in my opinion. And the reason why I bring this up is because Blackstone just raised $30.4 billion. You've probably seen this yourself. And guess what they're doing with that $30.4 billion? They're now investing in medium-term rental space. They're investing in hospitality. They're ditching the old commercial that they were into. And when you start seeing smart money make moves like this, these guys have people that were from Princeton, Harvard, Stanford, all these really high, universities that have these very smart people. They see they see ahead of the curve by years, and typically the general public doesn't follow suit for 3 to 5 years after they make these moves. So when you see Blackstone start making moves like this, we know that they're onto something. And if that doesn't give you validity, like I don't know what will, right? So that's
That's a
something to
good
think
point.
about.
Yeah, it's a really good point. What markets, like, you don't have to give a specific city, but like, what types of areas do you look for? I'd imagine probably A to B class neighborhoods near a hospital. I don't want to assume, but that's my guess.
Yeah, I look for B class, even C plus neighborhoods near a hospital. That's one of them. Again, if there's a market that's growing. So Texas, California, North Carolina, Florida, and there's one more. Oh, Illinois. Those are the 5 most underserved states for travel medical professionals. There's not enough clinicians to meet the demand for patients. And according to the SIA, which is this agency that looks and tracks travel agencies, nurses, and things like that, they're not going to be into pre-pandemic levels, which we all know that there's a huge shortage with nurses. We saw during COVID, right? There was just not enough clinicians. So those 5 states are not going to be to pre-pandemic levels until 2030. So we know we have a long roadway to build a business in those states. So, but yeah,
Wow.
I look for properties that have areas of growth. If there's an infrastructure bill that just passed in 2020 at the beginning of this year, so all over the U.S. there's new development for sewer systems, roadways, even like turbine engines, even like the huge windmills. So people get contracts with those companies, and they'll literally serve for years because there's going to be people coming to those markets for a long time. So those are things to think about. It's not just the travel industry that you want to look at. In fact, I would not say put all your eggs in that basket. You want to have different avenues and companies to work with.
Are
So
you looking for a certain type of property? As far as, are you looking for single family? Are you looking for a duplex? And then, I buy a lot of distressed properties, rehab them, then get them rented out. Or if I need to sell them and make money, I will. Is that something you do, or are you looking more for something that's a little more turnkey, and then all you have to do is, furnish it?
yeah, I did things backwards. I bought a bunch of single family homes, and now I'm finally doing things where I should have diversified earlier and I didn't. So for 7 years, I bought single families, and now I'm starting to get into multifamily. And the cool thing about this space is once your property's booked, say you're booked for 3 to 6 to 9 months, what are you gonna do? Sit on your hands for that time? Like you have to go look for other properties. So I think that having a mix of, like you're talking about distressed property that potentially only needs, light cosmetic stuff, buying multifamilies that more than 2 doors, 4 doors, something that you can go to a company and say, hey, I have 5 doors or 4 doors, even though it's a duplex, triplex, quadplex, whatever. It makes you look like you're more credible the more doors you have. And the cool thing about the medium term space too, Jaron, is it's not like short term rental investors where you just want somebody to book your house. Like mine is the only place. If I'm booked out and you have a property in my market, Jaron, I'd call you and be like, hey, dude, I have a insurance company that's looking to house somebody. They're looking to spend 7K on a 3 bedroom, 2 bath. Do you have a place available? And you're like, yeah, totally. Like my place is open. Cool. I'll take 10% of your income for the next 3 months. And now I'm able to help that client, help that company. We're serving the client that is obviously looking for a property, and then you get your place booked. And then guess what? You get a referral that reaches out to you. So Jaron gets a referral. His place is booked. Guess what he's going to do? Hey, Jess, I just got this company that reached out. Are you willing to connect with me? It's like my mentality and the way that I connect with my mentees is like have that mindset where we're not having that scarcity mindset. We're here to help each other. We're building a brand together. We're helping each other in our markets. We're helping the community. It's a clinician or a construction worker, whatever it is that's doing that. We're helping them find a place that's comfortable, safe, and in an environment that's going to be conducive for them to do their work. So it's not that scarcity mentality that you typically would have with like a short-term rental, investor. So
Yeah,
it's just different, man. And I
I
think
like
it's
that.
collective. It's better. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I like that a lot. It's like we said earlier, help enough people out and it'll come back around to you. And you're still getting a little affiliate piece off of that too. You get 10% for making the connection, but you keep that relationship strong, with the partner that you have. So I
Yeah.
love it, man. One of the things that's pretty darn easy in the long-term rental space is analyzing a property all the way across the board.
Yeah.
What is it going to be worth once we fix it up? What are the rents going to be? And so when I look at just me as somebody who doesn't dabble a lot in the midterm space, my first thought is like, all right, how do I find out what I'm going to be able to rent this for?
Yeah.
And
Very common
so,
question.
yeah, so I can go on Rentometer, or call a property manager and get it for the long term rental. What's that process look like for you guys in the midterm space?
Yeah. So my goal is to always 2x long-term rental rate. So if you're buying if you buy a property and it's $1,000 long-term rent, like I want to do 2x on that. So what I'll do is I'll go on like, AirDNA, Mashvisor, Rabu. I'll look at comps that are same and similar, just like you would if you were buying, a long-term property. I'll
Mm-hmm.
find properties that are similar to what mine are doing, and I'll see what their numbers are over the last year. So mashvisor.com allows you to see, so does AirDNA. You can see the last year's numbers of whatever property you're looking at. So I'll look at those and I'll just take a 10% variance decrease. So if it's, $1,000 a month, I'll take that 10% off, and I know that I can rent my place for 900 or whatever. So you're able to look at those numbers. And that's typically why I mentioned before, short-term rentals and midterm rentals are very well connected. And if you're working on a agency or a company, like that's exactly what I would say is like, hey, here's 3 comps. If you were to book these as an Airbnb, you're going to be paying, $5,000 a month. Here's the exact numbers. And here is where I'm actually saving you money. Because if you book through Airbnb, you're going to pay these fees, you're going to have the hosting tax, you're going to have all that stuff. With me, it's $900, whatever, yada yada yada. Again, we're building the relationship, so I'm able to
This
like,
is what you're selling to the agencies.
yeah, I'm saying like, here's how I'm going to help you. So we look at these 3 properties are same and similar, and here's what I'm doing for you. And then here's the kicker for me, Jaron. I've worked for years in this industry. If you have a travel nurse or somebody that comes from another state, what is it they need? Transportation. So
Oh,
I have a fleet of vehicles. So as somebody checks into my property, on the counter, there's a car, keys to a car, in the garage is an actual vehicle. So not only are they able to rent a car from me or rent a property from me, they also get a car in the garage. So I'm solving the problems of a clinician or a company that's
wow.
sending travelers. So again, this is how we make higher amount of income. I'm solving the problem of the company. I'm solving the problem of the folks coming in. And that's just one piece of the puzzle. Like we also have a grocery delivery service, just like Instacart. So we'll have these doctors that will stay. They'll work 15-hour days. They're resident doctors, and they'll say like, "Hey, I don't want to cook anything." So we'll actually start and connect with local companies, where we'll have like boxes of lunch. Here's your dinner. Here's this. So we'll take that income. We'll add a little bit to ourselves. So we'll make a little bit extra money. So now we're solving the problem of their food, right? They need to pick up food and just take it to work. So we're essentially like a one-stop shop for anybody coming in. Again,
Wow.
it goes back to what problems can I solve? How can I make this life of this traveler easier? How can I stand out in front of these other companies that I'm talking to on a business level? And when you talk to them about those things, they're just like, "What? You guys do all that?" So again, it's solving problems for people and companies. That's essentially what you want to do at the end of the day.
Wow. Do they rent the cars separate or do you bundle it into the whole thing?
Yeah, so we ended up getting an umbrella. I spent thousands of dollars with an attorney and stuff. The smartest way for somebody that's new getting into this is just go on Turo.com and just because they have an insurance gap that Turo has one. I think they take 30% for 100% coverage. So that's, again, we want to build our land, our home on our own land, right? So for me, I was like, I'll end up spending the 7K for an attorney to put together where anybody can just come sign a lease with us. They're also going to sign an agreement for the vehicle, and then this will pay for me over time. So that's how my mentality went. But if anybody's starting now, just use Turo and just bundle your property with, and then a direct link to your car on Turo, and you're not going to have to worry about
Crazy.
building something out. So
Look
yeah.
at you, dude, just covering all the bases. I love it.
Yeah, man. I think you have to, man. Again, I think the intuitive investors that are building businesses are going to think about these things ahead of time. And
Mm.
granted, I came from an industry where I watched these people coming. I saw the problems. I saw the needs. And I think that's where people listening to this episode now are going to start thinking about real estate, in a different way. Like, how can I solve problems? And you might live in a rural market in the middle of Wisconsin, and there might be, windmills around there. Guess what? There's people that are traveling to work on those all the freaking time. That's how you build a business, is literally by doing that. I have a student. He's 23, man. He has 22 properties now, and that's literally what he did. He built a business, rural Michigan, and he worked for one of those windmill companies.
Mm.
And he got a contract with his own company. And all the guys that come work there are now staying at his properties. And he arbitrages. He doesn't buy them. Now he's starting to buy, but he arbitraged at first. And again, it's just thinking creative, thinking outside the box. And a lot of times we have these own industries in our own backyard that we're just not thinking about it.
Yeah.
But now hopefully people have a different mindset when it comes to real estate and building a business.
I love it. How do you go about funding these? Is it usually somewhere between 10 and 20% down?
Yeah, it's 20% down. If you are able to get a contract, and this is one of the other cool things about this. So like if I put together a contract with a company, I can now go to my lender and say, hey, this is what this company is going to pay me. So like the net operating income is flipped now on, say, a multifamily unit. So if I get a contract for, say, 10, for 10 doors, they're going to look at this and be like, okay, we'll fund you this all day long, because now I'm flipping the net operating income from 2x to what it was before. And again, this is me going back to telling everybody, like, you can create a business, sell your real estate. So if I get this operating and I show that, right, Jaron, you're going to buy this for the cap rate that comes along with it. And I'm able to increase these cap rates now. So it just builds a lot of credibility. My end goal on this is just like I talked about smart money, getting into this space, like selling my entire portfolio along with my book of business to these companies, in the future. That's my exit strategy at a certain point, or an investor that has, a pretty good amount of money that's just like, hey, I want to buy something, a business and real estate, and just not have to worry about it. And essentially that's what happens, because these relationships are over 8 years old now, and we're still building them on a regular basis too. I'm not one of those guys that just talks about it. Like, we're actually still doing it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but you've got a solid foundation built.
Oh yeah, yeah. Like, I feel very comfortable. Even like I was in a market that got regulated by the short-term rental industry. The municipalities, we got a cease and desist letter, and everybody freaked out, and I was not nervous because I was already in this space. So I felt comfortable, like, okay, we're just going to pivot now. Instead of, doing midterm during the slow season, we're just going to do it all year now, and we'll be fine. And
Yeah.
we were fine, so that's why I'm telling everybody now, like, if you're in a gray area that's not regulated, there's a pretty good chance that something can regulate your market. Which, again, I'm pro regulations in a lot of these places, especially if it's TOT taxes, because those TOT taxes go to police, fire, EMS workers. So I'm all about regulations, but as long as it's fair for, obviously, the landlord and the guests
Yeah.
and the city. So
Yeah. No, 100%. And it gives you know what the playing field is. There can be some benefits to those regulations.
yeah,
It's not. I feel like a lot of times it's more it's easier to come into a place after the regulations have been set than to try to navigate through being an owner while they're
yeah,
being set. But
yeah,
most of the time, if people don't go overboard, then it ends up being better. It seems like overall for everybody. I think
totally.
one question that I have and the listeners will have is the management portion. So when you do it traditionally, you're able to manage through these portals, through Airbnb or Verbo or whatever. What systems have you put in place to be able to manage efficiently with the way you've
Yeah.
got it set up?
Yeah, so I use a company called IGMS, and IGMS is essentially just a platform that you use on Airbnb. So this is the medium-term rentals are not new; they've been around for a long time, but now companies are starting to catch on. There's not really any software that's specific for the midterm space, but
Mm.
we've made it work because, again, we co-host properties. I short-term rent other people's properties too, and midterm rent. So IGMS will allow us to see the entire platform. It'll integrate Airbnb, VRBO, Furnish Finder. We have to add our own integration on that, because Furnish Finder is just a booking platform for a landlord to connect with
Gotcha.
a tenant. So it's not an actual, like, booking platform. So we have to, like, obviously put our own stuff in there. But IGMS is great because it allows me to see what's happening. It allows the owners of these properties to see their calendars through a third party system. So that's what I've used, and other folks are using, like, Hostfully and things like that too. So, but again, we're still so new in this industry. Well, it's newer for a lot of people that now finally these companies are starting to look at it. They're starting to look at pricing revenue. They're starting to look at how to analyze the numbers on it. So it's becoming more popular, and we're going to start seeing more software that comes out for these people, for
Gotcha.
everybody to use.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
that'll be nice. I know you probably try to automate as much as you can, but you mentioned this earlier in the show. You you have to let people know that it's not like passive.
Oh
So
yeah. Yeah.
what do you mean by that? Like, dive in on it.
Yeah, so I mean, it's passive if you're the 99% of people that list on Airbnb and VRBO, which you don't have to do anything. You're just waiting for clients. Now, if you want to make more money and build an actual business, this is where it's not passive, where I am now calling these companies. I'm now going on Indeed.com and searching for companies. I'm now driving by an extended stay hotel at 7 p.m. at night and taking pictures of all the work trucks that are out there so that I can call those companies in the morning and try to get them to stay at our properties. So it's like that's the non-passive part. And again, 99% of people are not going to put in that effort and energy. Those
Yeah.
1% of people will. But again, it takes time and energy to build something. If it was easy, everybody would be doing it, right? But again, this is the way to do it, where you're building your own house on your own land as opposed to somebody else's. And it's not easy. It takes time and energy. But again, I think everybody that's listening to this probably has opportunities in their own backyard, and they probably weren't aware of them until now. And it literally is easy as, like, I'll give you a quick example, Jaron. There was a Dave and Buster's. You know what that is, right? Dave and Buster's,
Mhm. Yeah.
the adult video game place. There was one of those being built in my market, and there was a work truck, and it was from Indiana. We drove by, took a picture of the truck. I called the company and I was like, "Hey, I saw this work truck out. You guys are building a Dave and Buster's. Where are you guys? Do you guys have lodging?" And she's like, "Yeah, they're staying at the DoubleTree." And I was like, "Cool. How many people do you have there?" And she said 6. And I was like, I looked at the DoubleTree as I was talking to her, and it was $202 a night for 8 guys. So what is that? $1,600 a day.
Mm.
So I said, "Would you be willing to work with me if I was able to save you thousands of dollars by lodging?" And she's like, "But how are you going to do that?" And I was like, "Well, we have a 4-bedroom house with the study, so all these guys can be in one spot, and we only charge you $10,000 a month." And probably people are like thinking, like, "Dude, they're 10 grand. That's freaking crazy." They're paying $1,600 a day, and you do that
Wow.
times 30. So now again, we're going back to solving problems. This is me driving by Dave and Buster's, taking a picture of an Indiana work truck, different place in California, calling their HR department, creating a relationship, and then now all of a sudden I'm saving this company thousands and thousands of dollars and having all these dudes that are engineers stay in one spot. Like, how is that not a big win? I'm making 10 grand. My mortgage is 2K. So I'm cash flowing, $7,000 and some change on one single family 4-bedroom house.
And you're
And
charging
it's
them less than a third of what they were paying.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's all inclusive, right? We're covering the electrical, water, sewer, garbage. That place had a pool, so it was kind of cool for the guys to come hang out. Keep in mind, these construction workers and stuff, these dudes work like, they get up at 5 in the morning and they go to work literally at 5 a.m. and they're not back to like 6 or 7 p.m. at night. So they're working these long shifts. I mean, they get a couple days off, and it's just a lot of work that these guys are doing. So I'm a big fan of going after these construction companies. Again, most of these construction companies, if they're big or they're small, what do you want to do? Like, they want to save money in a certain way. And if I have a property and opportunity for them to do that, I just need to explain that to them. And that's essentially how you build a business. And now I'm building credibility, and I'm asking, where's their next resources? Where's their next project? And I can maybe arbitrage something in South Carolina or connect with you. If those guys are heading out there and all of a sudden they're paying 10 grand for 3 months, I get 10% of that. I mean, Jaron, do the math on that, man. That's 3 grand for me just for giving a
Just for
name.
making a phone call.
Literally a phone call. So I think there's so much opportunity in this space. It's just, you have to think creatively. You got to think outside the box. You have to be willing to put in that work. But again, I'm building an actual business. It's not just like listing on Airbnb or VRBO, and that's not passive at all.
Yeah. Wow, dude, this has been eye opening for me. I've heard of folks doing this. I've never been this close to it in a conversation with somebody who's actually doing it like
Yeah,
this, or if I have, they haven't gone this in depth.
yeah,
And I think it's a very interesting model. I think it is a model that makes a lot of sense. Um, Instead of doing it on those platforms that you're having to rent your space on, why
right.
not go straight to the source?
100%,
And
man.
if anybody's interested in the midterm rental space, I think this model is the only model that makes sense. Yeah, you're going to put in work on the front end. I mean, you're gonna have to reach out to these companies, just like Jesse said. He driving around town and he sees a work truck parked with an out of state tag. That should be a red flag or a green light, whatever that goes off in your mind, saying, "All right, I need to
Yeah,
reach out to them." So it's going to take some time, but man, when you start building that foundation, you get those contacts. I just, you've done a fantastic job, man. And it's a really cool story. And I know you get to help a lot of people. So,
Yeah.
tell folks where they can find you, can get a hold of you if they want to learn more.
Yeah, you can go to my YouTube channel. There's a ton of information we talked about at the beginning. Just type in Jesse Vasquez on the search bar, and I'll pop up. Usually, I should pop up there, even though it's probably the most common Hispanic name on the planet Earth. But look that up, and then you guys can also follow me on Instagram at the real Jesse Vasquez. I give a bunch of free information on there, and I'm all about educating people in the space. And again, I think that collectively together, everybody's able to help each other out. And if you want to learn the actual how to build a business, from me, I have a mentorship and a master class where I do that. But again, there's like so much free game out there that, you probably don't even need it if you are able to learn just by watching something.
That's
So
really cool, man.
there
Well,
it
hey,
is,
I
dude.
appreciate you being on. This was fantastic. So cool. It got me thinking, and I love it. So fantastic job. Awesome episode. If everybody listening to this, take a screenshot, tag me on Instagram at Finance Cowboy, tag Jesse at the real Jesse Vasquez on Instagram. We'd both like to personally thank you for taking time out of your day to listen to this. I know you got a lot of value out of it. So again, Jesse, thanks, bro. Appreciate
Yeah,
it. Hope to
man,
have you on again soon. And
for sure, man.
to all the listeners, thank you for joining in. And I'll see you guys next time.